Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Texas Mortgage Boss Podcast. My name is James J. And today I am joined by realtor Helen Bryson with Keller Williams. And today we're going to talk about 5 ways to reduce home buyer stress. There's a lot of stress right now for first time home buyers and even move up home buyers. And so Helen and I are going to discuss some things that you can do if you are in the situation where you're just a little bit stressed. Stay tuned. Hey Helen, what's up? How are you?
Hey, how are you? Happy
I'm doing.
Friday.
Yes, it's a great Friday. Astros are playing tonight. It's gonna be a good day and a great weekend as well. So yes, go Astros. Um,
Yes.
so I am I am very excited to discuss the topic today because this is something I know you see, you hear. I'm hearing it in the marketplace right now. People are stressed. All right, a lot of stress going on. So, we're going to give some strategies, some tips on things that people might be able to do to help them if they are stressed, if they are fatigued, because there's going on with both, fatigue as well as stress in the marketplace, especially especially if you're new to the market. So, if you're new to home buying in 2021, this is probably like a nightmare of a year for some people.
It's been a
For
little
others, it's
crazy.
good. Yeah, for others, it's good. For some people, it's insanity. So, as we kind of start to head into the end of the year, and you can discuss more about this seller's market because it is still a seller's market.
It
It's
is.
just not as crazy right now. So, we're going to discuss some tips and strategies for people to be able to help them if they are stressed. And but before we do that, let's talk a little bit about you because I want people to kind of get a little bit of a background on you, your kind of like your journey to real estate, and then we'll kind of get into today's topic. But tell me who you're with. I know you're obviously Keller Williams Premier, which is in Katy, but give some people a little bit of a little background about yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, James. I call myself a Texan by way of Oklahoma. So I'm originally from Oklahoma. I've been in
Yes.
Texas, in Houston since 2016, and I love Texas, love Houston. It's been such a pleasure learning and growing in Texas. Started out in property management, actually. That was my first introduction to the real estate world. I was working with multifamily properties, and that's when I learned and discovered how much I love helping people find a place to live. I love helping people find a home and a dwelling space that works for them. So I'm with Keller Williams. As you see the banner scrolling across the bottom, I am a part of the Grimion Group and Place, which is one of the biggest organizations in Keller Williams with Ben Kinney. So super excited to be a part of that team. Super excited to have the James Barnes in our in our big hub here in Katy. And so it's been a very interesting time to be a first-year realtor. Coming into this extremely hot like fire
Yep.
market, but it's been an experience. I'll just
Yeah,
say it's
for
definitely
sure.
been an experience. So
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to be a home buyer in this market. Now, listen, if you're selling a
yeah,
home, like you're sitting
you're
pretty
doing
in
great.
2021. You're doing very well in 2021. But for everybody else, so that's sellers, excuse me, buyers, maybe realtors that do a lot of work with buyers, like it is just pure insanity. And so, um, and I know you've seen this on your own
Yeah.
side.
It's
So,
been, there's been instances where it's like, we see it, it pops up, I send it to my buyer. We don't even get to the house
yeah.
where I'm getting a text or a call from the listing realtor and they're like, oh, we're sorry, it's already under contract. Like it hasn't even been on HAR a full day. So it's been very crazy.
Yeah. So, with that being said, we're going to dive into a few tips and strategies for people that are feeling the stress. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
buyers right now are wanting to just wait till next year. Okay.
Right.
Now, I've done several videos about waiting till next year, how that looks, because it's not going to look like it does in 2021.
Not at
Um,
all.
Prices are not coming down. People everybody wants to talk about the market crashing like it did back in '08. It's a very different situation, a very different scenario, what we have going on right now than we did back then. So I don't really see that happening. None of the experts that I study, watch, read, none of them think that's going to happen in 2022. And these are people that's what they do for a living.
Right.
Now they're like meteorologists, though. Let's keep this in mind. Most of the time they're right, but every now and then, they're not.
Yeah.
But I really don't see that happening in 2022 as far as pricing coming down and interest rates, same thing.
Right.
There's no organization, no projections of any sort that rates are going to come down. So that's going to reduce buying power next year. So with that being said, let's get into some tips for people that are still wanting to get into a home, even before the end of the year, or even into the first part of 2022, because it's going to be here before we know it.
Absolutely. So
So,
actually the first I guess stress factor, which we were just talking about, and that is the fact that, it's low inventory right now. It's
yes,
definitely a seller's market. And so, if you're going to get into the home buying game, if you're going to get into that, you've got to be prepared to move quickly. You can't go see
yeah,
some and then make a list and make a pros and cons list of all that. If you're going to do it, you need to do it while you're standing in that house that you're looking at. So if you're not
yeah,
willing to be able to move quickly, you're not willing to go see it, and 20, 30 minutes later, be able to go ahead and get that offer together for it, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure and frustration. And so, this is
yeah,
not window shopping season for homes.
yeah.
So if you're really going to
That
be
is such
serious,
a great. Yeah.
this is not
That
window
is
shopping
no, that
season.
is a that might be one of the best analogies I've heard, because you're right, like window shopping. Like, this is not the time for that right now.
No, right now, unfortunately. So
Yeah,
you really, before you even go see something, you really have to make sure that you really, got your sights set. So that way you're
yeah,
ready to move forward and get on it. Because the first offer is always or oftentimes going to be the offer that, they take seriously. Like that person came in first, they came in, appropriate, quick. So those are the
yeah,
kind of things that really matter. And when you don't have that mindset, it stresses you out because you're hemming and hawing,
yeah,
and you get that hard notification, under contract, and you get frustrated, and then you get discouraged.
yeah,
So yeah, so
yeah,
that's factor number one.
absolutely. So that's a great analogy. Again, I love the analogy of the window shopping. And honestly, for you as a agent, or if you're working with buyers, any agents that are working with buyers, like, listen, this is just, yeah, you gotta have your stuff together, and really you gotta be on the ball and ready to literally, I mean, honestly, you need to be making offers like literally at the property.
Right.
Because before, and I've been an agent, so I get it. You make um see several homes, and then you got to go home and think about it. No, not that you want to rush into it, but this is part of the stress that we're trying to
Right.
actually help people to relieve, is because if you're looking and looking and looking and looking and look, I mean, it becomes stressful and fatiguing as well.
Yeah.
So what's strategy number two?
So another thing that can stress you out is if your realtor is really not on the same page as you.
Mhm.
And so, with anything, I mean, with that, you should, I won't say window shop, but you should definitely reach out and connect and
Yeah,
interview a couple of agents, because you have to find the person that like understands where you are and they're able to meet you where you're at. Not great
yeah,
grammar, but you know what I mean.
I'm with you.
And, that person, like the agent, has to be confident. They have to have like knowledge. They've got to, be on their toes. And so a lot of
Yeah,
times people are frustrated because it's like a tug of war. You've got one person trying to go in the direction, you have the agent trying to go in the other. So you have to make sure you're connecting with someone that can help you with those future goals, and someone that's going to help you achieve what you're trying to achieve, and they're able to do it with wisdom. So that can be a
absolutely.
stressor if it's a
Let me
mismatch.
let me say something about this too. Just because an agent has been around for, or had a license for 10 years, 20 years, it does not mean they're super experienced. It just doesn't. You can have an agent a year in the business, 2 years in the business, that know way more than people that have been in the business for 15, 20. It's just the
It's
reality.
very
So
surprising.
it is because people make the assumption that, oh, well, this person's had their license for 10 years or 20 years. That
Right.
means absolutely, it just means they've had a license for a long time. Does not mean they've sold a ton of homes at all, because the reality is most of them don't. Most agents just don't sell that much. And so I want buyers, if yeah, you're looking for an agent, to really do your due diligence. So you are spot on with this, because I guess people just have this perception, they've been in the business forever. Doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Does not mean that they know. Today's market, today's marketing, today, everything today is different than it was 5 years ago. This is not the same. I mean, yes, it's still buying and selling, but social media is obviously huge, huge, huge right now,
Yeah.
and a lot of other things have changed. So, yeah, do not make that assumption that just because somebody's had a license for a long time, that they know what
That
they're
they
doing.
right.
Sad but true. So, all right, let's get on to number 3, which was next.
So the next thing that can be a stressor is that the seller is actually like a little difficult or very difficult,
Mhm.
especially in this kind of sellers, season that we're in, or sellers market that we're
Sure.
in,
Yeah.
or they're hurried, like they're just really trying to close. They're just impatient, and the reason that can be a stressor is because sometimes things come up with
Yep.
like the underwriting process, or things come up on the house like after
Yep.
the inspection, and so there are just things that have to be addressed and they have to be worked out, and those things, those are things that are kind of out of our control. We don't know until you have that inspector go out, or you get into that deep underwriting process, and uh-oh, we've got a little issue. You might have to switch from like FHA to conventional, or something like that. And so if you're working
Yep.
with a seller that is just annoyed at every kind of, hiccup or development, that can cause stress for the buyer, because, everyone's doing the best that they can. So when the
Mhm.
seller is like trying to like, let's close this out, it can be, it can be stressful. So,
No.
um, you never
Yep.
know what kind of seller you're going to be working with, so
Nope.
that again is something that's out of our control. But that's also something that kind of goes back to the agent that you have. Their ability to buffer and communicate and
Yes.
calm is very, very important. And it can even make the most unreasonable person, just kind of calm down a touch if you can meet them wherever
Yes.
they are and just give them what they need to bring it down a
Yeah.
few notches. So it's a process.
So you, yeah, and you are absolute master at this, by the way, with just your demeanor and the way you handle. I mean, seriously, like I talk to a lot of realtors for years. I mean, I've been in business for a while myself, but just the way you handle yourself and the way your demeanor, it makes a big difference when you're dealing with a listing agent, right, or your opposite side, whatever it is. It really makes a difference, because unfortunately, there's not there's no professional class that realtors are forced to take. And
There's no
there
etiquette
should be.
classes, really.
Yeah, there's just not. There should be, and would it make a difference? I don't know.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I think it
it
would.
might, but my point is, you deal with so many different personalities
Yeah.
of people, and honestly, you as the agent, you want to keep that away from your buyer as much as you can. To because you'll deal with a listing agent who is a nut, and the seller. So the seller stressing the listing agent, the listing
Right.
agent stressing you as a buyer's agent if you're working the buyer side,
Yeah.
and you want to keep your buyer. You want to be that buffer, and so
Yeah.
I will give you kudos, because you do a really good job of just staying calm, and you need to in this business. You cannot get too high, too low.
Mm-mm.
Again, I'm doing it a long time. I don't really get too high or too low. There are some things in this business that absolutely drive you crazy, but you do a really good job at this. So that is a great, great, great tip there. It really does matter who you're working with as far as the realtor goes, because they can just buffer a lot of that stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's so much stuff that goes on, even on the mortgage side, that I don't even like for people to know, because they go crazy.
Yeah.
I had hair when I started, Helen. Just saying. Um, only been in business for 5 years. Now I'm joking,
Oh
but
goodness.
um, I have no hair to pull out. This is what 15 years of doing real estate will
For
do
real
for you.
estate.
But anyway,
Oh no.
um, I think you're gonna be okay. Um, but anyway, no, I love that. That is so true. Having the agent buffer a lot of the craziness that goes on. It's so important, and it helps alleviate stress for the buyer because the process is stressful anyway, right? Just a
It is.
normal transaction, there's some stress involved with it. So when you're dealing with in this market, you just 10x in it. So what's next on the list? Let's go keep moving.
Anytime someone says 10X, I always think of Grant Cardone, which is a great book, by the way. Um, so the
Oh,
next,
which one are we talking about? 10X? Oh,
well, you
10x
said
book. Yeah,
10X. So Grant Cardone
I
has a
did, and that's
10X.
where it comes from. Yes, it is a great book. It is a great book. If you're in sales, you're a realtor, you haven't read, whether you like Grant Cardone or not,
Right.
don't read the book. It's a great
Very,
read. It
very
is an
good book.
absolute great
I
book.
had no
Again,
idea who
get off.
he was, and read that book. He does. There's some language. There is some language. Okay, and throughout
Yes,
that book, just forewarning. But it's a
absolutely.
great book. You got to kind of chew the meat and spit out the bones on that one. But
Absolutely. Yes, that is a great analogy. So you're right,
but
100%.
for the next thing, which I kind of mentioned earlier, was when there's like lots of things that come back that need to be inspected. And one of the biggest kind of, I guess, nerve-wracking parts of that is when it's on like a VA loan, because the
Yes.
house has to be, I wouldn't say perfect, but it's got to be in really, really great condition, for our veterans, and it should be. But that can be a point of stress because you don't know if when you give the seller this laundry list of things that need to be fixed, how
Yeah.
willing they're going to be to do that. And so that's another one of those things. It's kind of going to go back to the kind of agent that you have. If they are
Yes.
willing to negotiate on your behalf, if they're willing to um, I like to say politely press
Yeah.
towards, just getting those things accomplished and really educating um, the seller and the listing agent on why you're asking for XYZ to be
Yeah.
accomplished. And when I say that, it's not like, hey, I want you to adjust the outlet cover. Like,
Yeah.
we don't want to do the petty things like the stuff that you can just get from Wayfair or Amazon and switch
Yeah.
out. Like, come on. But, there are just some things where you're like, my buyer really wants this to see this through. We really want to be able to close this out, but we need XYZ to be done. And so, just really communicating and educating, because again, like you said, James, there are just some agents don't know like what
Yeah.
repairs like really need to be taken care of before the appraiser goes out or anything like that. And it's not that the buyer's trying to be demanding. We're just trying to we're all trying to make it to the closing table, right?
Yeah.
So making sure that you communicate that effectively and politely. And then with the home warranty, even though it's a seller's market right now, and a lot of people are like, oh, don't ask for anything, don't try to. For me, just my
Yeah.
personality type and the way that I am when it comes to the people that I'm taking care of, I'm going to ask for everything that will ensure that they are taken care of. And for
Right.
me, that includes a home warranty. My perspective on asking for things is all they can say is no.
Yes.
And we're fine with that. But I would rather ask
Yes.
and, at least have the chance that they're going to be like, oh, sure, we'll do this, and this,
Yeah.
maybe we'll do a credit on XYZ, than to just oh, it's a seller's market. I'm not going to, we need to try to just tiptoe around until I don't
Yeah.
think that's the best way to serve your
Yeah.
clients when you're a
Yeah.
realtor. So,
Yeah.
but the back and forth with negotiating for repairs can be stressful. And
Yes.
one thing I would just advise other realtors is if you're in a situation where you're having to kind of do some back and forth in negotiating, maybe, they don't, I don't want to say they don't have to be CC'd to everything, but you do have to understand that for some personality types, the barrage of emails back and forth can really overwhelm your client.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. So true.
So, there were just some things like maybe you just need to CC them on the finished result email, like the
Yeah,
conclusion that you've come to, the negotiation that you've come to, so they can see the finished, just like when you've got a goal, or you've got the little thermometer, maybe you're saving money, your brain sees, okay, completed,
yeah,
completed, completed, completed. So I just feel like maybe have that same mindset with the correspondence, because it's a lot.
so true. It is.
So
It's too much, and this
it
drives
yeah.
me absolutely up a wall because for me, I mean, I'm still dealing with the agents, and when
Right,
they are constantly copying the client, it drives me. Now, this is not about hiding something from the clients. Yeah, it's about
no,
overwhelm. They
right,
are not used to dealing with this craziness like we are. Right?
right,
We're in the business. We understand this. Buyers and sellers are not. Now, unless your seller or buyer is demanding to be on every email, and I doubt that
right,
they are, I would maybe see definitely not a buyer, right? They're just not. It drives me absolutely up a wall when people do that. And they're overwhelming the buyer, they're overwhelming the seller, whatever the case may be, or both. And it adds to the stress. It absolutely
yeah,
adds to their stress. That is what our job is. It really is to take some of that off the buyer, off the seller. And like we're used to this, right? We do this
right.
for a living. It's different for us. We get it, but I'm so glad you brought that up because that is one of my huge pet peeves, and we're copying buyers and sellers on emails.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So stop doing it if you're an agent. Stop. Don't do it.
And
Um,
I would say it does, just a little asterisk by that, that is also something that's going to kind of depend on their personality type. So if you're familiar with
yeah,
like DISC or Myers-Briggs
absolutely.
or
Yeah,
whatever you use,
yeah,
really recognize, the differences there. You may
yeah,
have someone that says they want to be CC'd on everything.
yeah,
And so when I have that person that looks like they have the capacity, right? They
yeah,
have the capacity to handle all that back and forth, then that's fine. But when I do that, I'm still checking in on them, engaging how they are, gauging
yes,
how they sound when we talk on the phone, we're texting and things like that. If I feel or sense
yeah,
that they are getting overwhelmed, or it's like it's starting to bubble
yeah,
up, then
absolutely.
I'm gonna not I'm
Yeah,
not gonna put them on every single thing, just
yeah,
because they're trying, they're trying to manage, they're trying to make sure they're there and present, and that's great. But everyone's got a whole
yeah,
bunch of life going on. Everyone's got kids and works. You've got parents trying to help their kids with their, first time home, and they're still at
yeah,
work the whole day. So they're dealing with all the work emails. And then you've got all these home
yeah,
buying emails. And so I just think really, we're managers of their emotions and their stress. And sometimes they think they're doing really well, but you really have to pay attention and be attentive, because they may be barely treading
yeah,
water because of all the stuff. So it's just,
so
we're the
good.
stuff managers. It's not a
Yeah,
super exciting thing to say, but it's what we do.
you're
So
right.
yeah,
That is so good, so important. I
yeah,
really hope that like agents are really taking note of that because it drives me nuts when people start doing that and copying buyers on it. So
yeah.
the other thing, real quick, that you touched on it, especially with VA, because early in the year, sellers didn't even want to sell to VA buyers.
Hmm.
All right. Or FHA for this whole appraisal waiver, excuse me, not appraisal
Right,
waiver, but the mandatory clause. Okay, so you talk about stress.
right.
Um, is it still going on? I say yes, maybe
Yeah,
not to the same level as it was earlier. The first 7 months of this year. No, I mean it's slowed down, but I mean sellers are
it's still
still
out there. Yeah.
it's still out there, absolutely. So they're being selective about who they sell their home to when they've got multiple offers coming in. I mean, what do? You can't tell the seller, hey, you can't do that. Of course they can. There's no law.
Right.
You can't stop them.
It
It's
hurts
not
my
right.
feelings though.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't like it, especially because I'm
Yeah,
a veteran too.
right.
So it frustrates me when I hear, oh, we don't,
Hmm.
they're
We're not
discriminating.
accepting any VA financing. I'm like,
It's just you talk about stress. Like
right.
if you're a veteran and you're buying a home, how stressful is that? Like not knowing it again, there's a whole nother we can go down a whole rabbit hole with this one, especially because so when it comes to veterans, I get real defensive about it.
Yeah, and
So,
one thing I've
but
really quick before we move away from that, one thing I've noticed that's really surprised me is the lack of knowledge when it comes to handling VA. Like I've literally
yeah,
had some of the
yeah,
listing agents ask
yeah,
me, "Oh, VA, like what does that entail?" Where, when I'm
yeah.
checking with them to see if they'll consider, VA
So good.
financing, they're like, "Well, what is that?"
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Educate yourself. And
yeah,
these are probably
just
not brand new agents. These are probably people that have been around.
no, not yeah.
And
So
yeah,
just, I just feel like if we're really, because real estate is a service industry. Like I know it's sales, but
yeah,
it's a service industry. So I feel like if you're really trying
absolutely.
to serve at a high capacity, you need to put yourself in a position to be able to serve everybody. And
Yeah.
that's it.
And it's not, yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, we could keep going on this
Yeah.
one, but yeah,
Oh, and
the
really quickly
education. Go ahead.
on just touching back on inspections. Um,
Mhm.
One way to, I won't say avoid, but if the thought of having to do back and forth, with repairs and things like that, if that's like, a
Mhm.
source of stress or anxiety, I mean, the only way to really avoid that is maybe not looking at homes that are like more than like 50 years old. Because, the
Mm,
more, I mean, the older the home, you're looking at, at some point having to replace all the windows because the windows may be
yep,
original to the home. You're looking at possible foundation issues. You're looking at, structural things left and right, plumbing things left and right, if it's got galvanized pipes and all that. So,
yep,
there's ways to kind of, just you want to get really
yeah,
intentional with what you're
yep,
looking for, and that's something that can and maybe even should be addressed in the buyer consultation appointment before you even go look at a home, so that way you can
yep,
set the expectations for what that looks like, the differences between looking at a younger home versus a more vintage home, even if it's been like flipped
yep,
fabulously and it looks amazing. There's just it's
yep.
it's a different kind of experience when you're shopping for that. So there you go.
So good. So good. Yeah, that's really, really good advice. Really helps buyers right now if if they're looking at older homes. I mean, there's a huge
Mhm.
difference in technology. There's a huge difference in the way homes built are nowadays
Right.
versus years ago. And so, yeah, these inspections, yeah, it's just another source of stress that is involved. That you as the agent want to try and help your client. But you're right. I mean, just the education, we need more. I can go for a whole rant on realtor education, but I won't. And for you guys that are wondering, yeah, I was a realtor. I get it. So I can speak on this because we're like, you're going to lend. No, I've been on both sides. So anyway, my point is, there's not enough education. There's not enough. Yes, there's required some things that are required. And this is
Right.
not a realtor bash here, but I'm just saying there's just things, the VA thing is so huge because I see it too. Like people
Yeah.
don't really know. They're just like VA. Like what do we got to do?
With it.
What's going on? It's like
Yeah.
educate yourself because honestly, a lot of the stuff with VA has not changed that much over the years. So
Or
educate
sometimes
yourself.
the seller is asking, the listing price is
Yep.
high, and the listing agent, because they have to run a CMA,
Yep.
they know that the home may not appraise.
Yes.
And because, VA is it's contingent on, okay, what is this house really worth? They don't want to accept
Absolutely.
VA because they know they're
Yep.
not going to be able to get, XYZ, over
Yep.
what it's worth. And that affects commission and all that. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot going into it. And the
yeah,
worst thing I say about this business is that we can't control everybody.
right.
That's the worst thing about this business that we don't know what the seller, what the agent, as you as a
So
buyer.
many motivations.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah,
And so, if you're on a buy side and you represented a buyer, you conveyed a message to the selling agent. How is that message really getting delivered to the seller?
right.
You don't know. You have no idea. And so, I wish there was another way of everybody get into a room and we all everybody have a conversation right there. That's how
Coffee
we
table
negotiate.
chat.
Can't be any of this quiet stuff. But anyway, just a far fetched dream. So let's move on to we're at number 5 now. What you got next?
So this one is going to be, I would say more so for maybe people that are investing. It can come up if you're just a traditional home buyer, but if a surprise title defect comes up, that's not very exciting. And I mean, there can be any kind of like blimp or blemish on a title, a lawsuit, a lien, or something like that. And so, especially if you're getting into investing and you're, going to the tax sales and all that, those you have to kind of be prepared that that may be a possibility. And so one of the best ways to kind of work with that or not be super stressed out if that comes up is, to have a title policy, like an insurance policy. And so that's different from a lender's policy, but that's like a form of protection. And so, a lot of people are trying to get into real estate investing and, they're looking at multifamily or multi-unit and all that. And so you want to really kind of, it's a little bit more money, but you want to protect yourself and know what you're dealing with. And then even if it's for a single family home, you want to reach out to the HOA, right? And make sure that there's no legal action against the property. There's no HOA liens, because once you own it, you're responsible for it. So.
Yeah. And I mean, if there's any situation where a buyer is being advised to not do that, or, I mean, this is due diligence is really what this comes down to. There's just certain things you don't skip,
Right.
And an inspection, okay, you don't skip it. I've heard of situations where people are not even doing inspections because they're so desperate to get the property. Now, it doesn't mean
I have people sign I have a thing that says for your protection, get an inspection. I have them sign it before we do anything.
Yeah, and ultimately, I mean, it is their choice, but for the real estate side, if you're representing the buyer, like if you're telling them not to do it, because this is the thing, you can still do an inspection and not have an option period, right? You can still do, because the whole point of the option period is for you as a buyer to do your due diligence, do your inspections, do all that kind of stuff. And then if you don't like what you hear or you just change your mind, you can walk away. That's what that option period is for.
Right.
If you're waiving your option period and you just don't do an inspection, I just don't understand that. I really don't understand that. If anybody, actually, not even if, I know it's happening. I know it has happened.
Yeah.
But I would never have a buyer, even if we're not going to have an option period, to back away from the house, for whatever reason we choose. I'm still going to do an inspection, right? It's just something you just don't skip. New construction, maybe not. Everybody's going to be different with that. But on resale, there's no way I would ever purchase a home without having an inspection.
Without an inspection,
So those are just the whole the title, all that kind of stuff. That's just stuff that, to me, it doesn't matter what's going on. This is stuff I got to make sure is happening, and
it's clean and clear.
It's being taken care of. Yeah. And again, that goes back to the agent again, having the right person representing you, because there are agents that will they're just hungry to get a check. Just the reality of it. They're not really representing your best interest as they should. So again, I don't want to go on a whole tangent on realtors, because I love realtors. I was realtor. So, but it's just a level of education that I think there needs to be more CE. There needs to be more continuing education on certain things, in my opinion. So, we got bonus. Just because you're such a nice person, we got some bonus tips for people on ways to reduce home buyers trust. So what you got next?
So one of the things I see is when people create, and I think we talked about this on another one, when they create like what their budget is for buying their home. And then they become stressed out because, you've got to pay for your inspection, you've got to pay for the pest control inspection if you want to get that, you may have to pay for the survey and so there's lots of different things. And so, we just see this one, like, this is what my mortgage can be.
Yep.
and they don't realize all the other expenses leading up to, even being able to own the home. And so I think,
Yeah.
again, just proper, just sharing. You just really want to um, educate your buyer on all the steps, and those are, again, things that should come up in the buyer consultation.
Yeah.
The buyer consultation is very, very important because that's where you can educate them. Because there are some people that, and this is not just because they may be a first-time home buyer, but
Yep.
there are some people that are buying a home and they've bought and sold and built. They've done all this before,
Yep.
but real estate is constantly changing and
Yes.
evolving.
Yep.
So, they may have bought in the 80s and built, 20 years ago, and now
Yep.
they're doing something else. And it's a completely different experience because
Yep.
everything has changed. And so you can't take for granted that people are going to know or understand or have the money for X, Y, Z. So you just want to, you want to be able to set them up for success. And
Yeah.
so just, even though it may feel redundant, it may feel like you're like babying them by telling them
Yep.
every single step, but I would rather do that and they know, and we
Yep.
have, maybe something's going to be lower or less. That's great. Than to just go, oh, they know what they're doing. This is the third or fourth house they've dealt with. And
No.
then there's surprises and they're upset. And so I just think the appropriate setting of expectations is just
That's
really,
it.
really important. And so that's a really big thing. Just really, people get so excited when they think about buying a home, and that's great because it's exciting, but it's an intricate process, and it you're having to pay for lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
you look at all those different things, you're having to pay for all this stuff, you're not even in the house, you've got 20,000 emails every day,
Yep.
just so you we gotta
Yeah.
you gotta keep it, clean, and try to get everything streamlined. I do a lot of check-in, like, how you feeling today? Like, I just make sure
Yeah.
that they're good. Because as a
You have
realtor,
to.
we're dealing with multiple people, right? So the home buyer just has one barrage of emails.
Yeah.
Realtors, lenders, we've got multiple barrages of emails because we're serving multiple people, and
Yeah.
everyone's at different stages and places in their home buying experience. And so just
Yeah.
staying organized. As a home buyer, I give them a folder. Anytime we do anything, I'm like, bring your folder, because I want them to be able to like have everything in one place. I don't.
Yeah.
We gotta keep it clean. And so anything that you can do to just help streamline it for your client,
Yeah.
as a home buyer, anything that you can do to just stay organized, even in your emails, just
Yeah.
moving that stuff over into your home buying folder or whatever,
Yeah.
just organization is my friend. Like,
Yeah.
it keeps everything clean and organized. It helps with due diligence and tasks
Yeah.
and knowing where you are and what needs to be followed up on. And so, that helps me reach back out. Oh, did you hear from so and so on that security quote? If they're looking for security for their home. And
Yeah.
so, um, one task at a time.
Yeah.
I'm a checklist person. So, I like to give a little checklist.
Yeah.
And again, it's a brain thing, right? So you got your home buyer,
Absolutely.
they're seeing, okay, check this off. We got this done. And they can stay calm because they see the progress
Yeah.
happening, and
Yeah.
they can stay encouraged and stay focused. Um,
So good.
yeah. So
It's called being a professional. I know. So it's called actually being a professional realtor. Is what this is called. Actually having a system, and yes, it gets redundant. You do this. Well, some people are not doing it as much as people think, but for the realtors that are actually producing, yeah, it is redundant. It should be. It should be a process that you have every time you talk to somebody. It's new to them.
right.
They haven't heard it. So the fact that you actually have a checklist of things for you to know and for them to know, and it just leaves the guesswork out of this. And the other
Right.
thing you said, which is super huge, is making the assumption that just because somebody purchased a home before that they know. Not the case. Again, we get into this thing because we're in the business and we do this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
These people are not buying houses all the time. I mean,
Right.
unless they're investors, most people are buying a house every few years.
Hmm.
5, 6.
5 to 8.
It may be slowing. It depends. Everything's situational, but they're not doing this all the time. So you bought a house 5 years ago. You don't really necessarily know everything that went down. So
Right.
making that assumption that people know, bad idea, because they just don't. Even for me, same thing. I don't care when you bought a house or when you got a mortgage before. I don't assume that
Right.
you know. And I have done it. Let me be clear. I've done it before, and every time I've done it, I made some mistake because I just
Yeah.
think they know things and they don't. So I do not assume anything ever for anybody. I don't care how many homes unless they say, "Hey, I'm good," and they just tell me, "Hey, I don't
They
really
try
need
to
to
cut
know
you
that."
off. You're like, I'm good. Yeah.
I'm still kind of trying to get that message across, and even if it's not
Yeah.
them, maybe verbally or it's not verbally, but reading something. I'll say I use video a lot, right? That's my
Right.
way of communicating with a lot of my clients is through video,
Yep.
because they'll rather watch you say something than
Hmm.
read it.
This is true.
So, you know how big I am on my videos. So, this is why, because
I
you
am.
literally
I'm
can take
trying to be like you when I grow up. I'm gonna start doing
you
more
and
videos.
you should not be like me, but you should be doing way more video, Helen. I'm not
I
even going. We're not going to turn this
know.
into.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Don't.
yell
This
at
is
you,
not the scolding Helen's podcast. Okay.
but and so should every other realtor, honestly. And we know the reality is most realtors still don't do this, but it's a great way to communicate with people.
It
You could
is.
set up, and this is not a marketing podcast here necessarily, but I mean, literally, you can set this stuff up on autopilot, record the videos, and send them out, send them out, send them out. Just have them sitting there, right?
Bomb Bomb is
It's
definitely my friend now.
I love Bomb, and I use it all the time. And so you can have evergreen type content. But again, I want to turn this into a marketing podcast because I'll go off on a
Go
whole
on.
tangent on marketing. We want to keep this the main thing, the main thing. So the point of and it really this is kind of leading back to the whole title here of stress. When you're communicating with your clients that way, it's
Yeah.
helping them with stress. They don't have
Yeah.
to guess. It's helping
They're
them.
they're
It's helping
not
you as
getting
well.
to any weird
Nope.
conclusions. They're not, because
Yeah.
you're keeping them updated and educated all along the way. And with the
Yeah.
videos, it is really great because of the checklist I give them. I can say in my video, as I'm giving them kind of like that
Yeah.
next phase of where we're at, like, okay,
Absolutely.
you can refer back to page 11 because
Yep.
we're right here on number 4, and there's the little bullet points for that.
Yep.
So video is really, really helpful. And sometimes they retain it better that
There's no
way.
question.
So
That's why people watch. They watch. That's why Netflix is huge, right? People like to watch stuff.
yeah,
Probably not the best example, but anyway, people like to watch.
you
People
got
like to watch.
reels and stories
They
and
do.
TikToks and all
Yeah,
that stuff, and we're
exactly.
just constant. Yeah,
Yeah. So this is again the whole point of what we're even talking about is really comes down back to the buyer and
yeah,
helping reduce stress because they're being educated. All right, and there's no better way to do it if you can't do it in person. And the way the world is right now, it's a challenge sometimes. Maybe you're showing, you're working with the buyer, showing homes and that kind of thing, and you're with them.
hmm,
But when you do it ahead of time, and you're a professional realtor who actually has a checklist, you can then take that checklist and actually record videos and send it to your clients so they know what's going on. So, so good, so good, so good. All right, so we got any other bonus tips?
I've got thousands, I'm sure, but that's that's all I put in my notes.
That's
I did
good.
have some statistics on home buyer stress, but
Uh huh.
I think I don't want to talk about the statistics of it now because we've just talked about how to avoid it.
Yeah.
So, implement
Well,
these things so that we can avoid putting our home buyers in that home buyer stress statistic.
yeah. And I mean, you don't even need to go necessarily into the statistics, but it's fair to say it's at a all-time high. Like this year, it's been at an all-time high. I've been doing
Mm.
this I've been in the business it's been almost 20 years at this point between real estate and mortgage. It's never been like this. All right, it's never been like that.
That's
Anybody
what
that's been in the
everybody's
business for a
saying.
while,
All my
it's never been.
veteran, long
Yep.
time, realtors are like, this year has
Yeah.
been great. Like they've never seen anything like
Not
this.
where not the where it's countrywide. You have
Right.
certain areas
Little
that were
pockets.
super crazy, right, in the country. So, back in the day, like Vegas was super hot.
Mm,
Florida was super hot. Miami, which is still hot, but where you have it all over the
right.
country and everybody
Like
is just
Oklahoma,
jealous.
where I'm from.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
it's crazy. It's
it's
literally just like
everywhere.
this in Oklahoma,
Yeah,
which is crazy to me.
yeah.
Oh, I think it froze. Can you hear
No,
me?
we're good. We're back.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but no, I heard you. You were just kind of talking about Oklahoma and the craziness there. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah,
Everywhere.
it's very unprecedented right now. There's really no, oh yeah, this happened back in fill in a blank. That it's never happened. It's never
Right.
been like this. So, if for buyers that are in this market, like I get the stress. Like I get it. For the realtors, I get it. Like
Yeah.
for us on the lending side, it's the same for us because
Yeah.
we're pre-qual letter for this pre-qual. I mean, people are asking for pre-qual letters all over the place because they can't get a house, and
Right.
so
Without it.
we're all seeing it. But that is such good advice. So I want you guys to tell us in the comments, like, what are you stressed about as it relates? What is
Mm.
stressing you as it relates to owning a home or buying a home? What's stressing you? Put it in the comments, and then reach out to Helen as well. What's give Go ahead and give your phone number again, Helen, and give us the best way to reach you.
Okay. So my phone number is 281-519-6792. So again, that's two
Yeah.
eight one 519 6792. My Instagram is at and then live dot love home. Oh, that's Instagram. Yeah, my Instagram. I was like .com, but there's no
Okay.
.com because it's Instagram. Just at live.lovehome.
Got it.
And then my website, which is a touch long, but thankfully James has got it here at the bottom. It's helen.grimmiongrouphomes.com. So
Yeah.
James, thank you so much for today, even though I didn't know this
Such
was going to be video.
But you know what? You're so professional. You can do this. So I wasn't even worried about you. You can just go
I feel
with it.
like you don't give me details. You're like, oh, she's fine.
You know what? I kind of don't because people get so worked up about things. I do a
You
lot
might
of
have done
video
me a favor. You might have done me a favor
because I
by not
know
telling me.
people I try to minimize the stress of this when it comes to doing these type of interviews. So I don't want to give you too many things to worry about ahead of time. And
That's
then when
funny.
it's go time.
Right.
So this has been a super valuable interview. It really was, Ellen. And I hope people rewind this, listen to it again. But yeah, in the comments below, tell us what you're stressed about. What are you stressed
Yep.
about in this market right now? What's going on in your world that's got you stressed out? Again, reach out to Helen, Instagram, Facebook. She's there. You got all her contact information. But seriously, I will say this again. You are one of the best as far as the way you just stay calm. It is super. That transfers to your client. It really does.
It
If you're
does.
freaking out, oh my god, like that
They're
stuff
gonna go up
is
with you.
energy, man. It's energy that you are transferring to your client.
Yes,
And
it
if you're a
is.
realtor, you cannot do that. You just can't.
Mm-mm.
You cannot. You should not be transferring that
You want to
energy
stay
to your
at
client because
72 degrees, a good comfortable
it's
72.
true.
Not too hot, not too
Absolutely.
cold.
Yeah. And I know it gets hard. I get it, but you still got to do it. Look, that's why you guys are paid what you are. It's
That's what
part
we
of it.
do.
It's the psychology. You're more of a psychologist in a lot of situations here.
Yeah.
So keeping that stress low is super important. Like I said, you do a great job of this. So
Thank
appreciate
you.
you. Thank you, Helen. Guys, make sure you go subscribe, like, and share on YouTube. Again, let us know what you're stressed about in the comments. We'll read those comments, and then Helen, we'll follow back up with you with some strategies on things maybe that we haven't touched on.
Yeah.
But appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much, Helen. Appreciate it.
Thank you. This was fun. This was not nearly as traumatizing as I thought it was
See,
going to be. So,
easy, right? Easy, easy. I got you. So, all right, guys, there it is. Fire right there. Helen, thank you. I will see you guys on the next video. Take care.